here back in Genesis. Somebody asked me again this morning if we were still in Genesis 42. So I guess we're still there. We've been there for a couple months now. Oh my goodness, man. I'm trying to get past this. I'm trying to get out of it, but it just is not, just is, we're still in it. So let's do a little recap. I'm not going to I got reprimanded for doing recaps too. So I continually get reprimanded, man. So recap from last week. And I'm the only thing that I really want to say about last week. We talked about, hold on a minute. I got to switch this. How did that switch, Aaron? Thank you. I talked about last week as far as with Peter, right? And are we saying that we are a Christian? Are we acting as though we're a Christian? Or are we only acting like we're a Christian when we're with Christian people and when we're with the group of people that we need to be with? And other than that, we're out there, and Peter, we talked about, because when Joseph talked about, that he recognized his brothers, but they didn't recognize him because he was in his Egyptian garb. He was in his, he had all his makeup on, different position. Do people recognize us as a Christian? Or is the only people that recognize as a Christian is when we're in church and then when we get out in the world, we're something different. And we talked about Peter, as he got out there and he said that he was going to die for Jesus. I'm going to do it all for you. I'm going to go to the end for you. I'm going to love you until. And as soon as something went on, he fled and he ran, and then he denied Christ, right? He denied him 3 times, and then the rooster crowed, and then he realized that, hey, man, I've got to get my life in gear where if I say I'm a Christian, I say I'm going to follow Christ, and I say what I'm going to do, then I need to do what I'm supposed to be doing. And I need to live the way that I'm supposed to be living. And I can't just live that way when I'm with people that are living that way. And then when I'm not, I'm going to live however I want to live. And at that point, that was Peter's changing point, right? And Peter went on from that point and literally, changed everything. He was one of the strongest disciples, and he really served the Lord and really did. So, the thing that we can think about, and we brought that into the new year, what is the face that we're putting on? Are we putting on a face that we're a Christian and living in a way that is not pleasing to God? This is I texted Randy, I texted a bunch of people. This is a new year, a new start. We can start different this year than we did last year, right? And that's kind of where we're going. So, but that's a heart thing, man. That's a heart issue. That isn't, I can't tell you. Nobody can tell you, that has to be the Lord speaking to you in your heart, and you got to change it in your heart. So anyway, that was kind of where we were last week. So I'm going to go a different thing this week. If I wouldn't take so many, but I just can't help it, man. So let's read right here. Let's go down here in Genesis 42. Okay. And we're going to, as just a quick little recap, the brothers have come. The brothers are there. Joseph questions the brothers. I think you're spies. I think you're coming to see the land. I think you have deceptive plans. I don't think you're real. I don't think you. So he keeps testing them, right? And he's testing them and he's asking them questions. They say, no, we're changed people, man. We're honest people. We're loving people. We're just here to get grain for our family. That's why we're here. And he's like, well, if that's true, then, you're going to be tested on that. And you're going to show me that that's who you truly are. And, does the Lord test us? Does the Lord put us through? Why do we go through tests in our life? If I don't ever have a test in a class that I'm taking a class in, do I ever know where I'm at? Do I ever know how I'm doing? Do I ever know where I'm progressing from? I'm just rolling through life. The Lord tests us that in this, and you can look at this in your new year as you're going on, that some of the tests that I used to fail a year ago, right? Like Cindy's still on that now, dropping glasses out of the drive-through window, right? I passed that test. I'm through that, man. I'm done with that. Right now, she's on that test. No, that's not true. I still do stupid stuff like that. Anyway, the Lord will continually test us to see where you're at, and are we still failing at the tests that we failed at a year ago, or has the Lord shown us you've grown in this? Now here's a new test for you, because you always got to be growing. That's our whole goal, right? In life and everything else, you've got to be growing. So he's going to test them, and how he's going to test them, he's going to put them in prison, right? And he's going to say, I'm going to throw all you guys. So we're going to read here. Let's go to Genesis 42. And it says, but Joseph said to them, this is verse 14. He says, Joseph said to them, It is as you spoke to you, saying, you are spies. In this manner you shall be tested, right? By the life of Pharaoh, you shall not leave this place unless your younger brother comes here. Send one of you, let him bring your brother, and you shall be kept in prison, that my words may be tested to see whether there is any truth in you, or else the life of Pharaoh, surely you are spies. So he put them together in prison for 3 days. So this is the test that he's going to say. He's saying, look, you guys are all going in prison. Your whole family's going in prison. The 9 brothers are going in prison. I'm going to let one of you go back to your family, back to Canaan, and I'm gonna let you get your brother, and I'm gonna bring him back. And if he comes back, then you pass the test. Then you're not spies, and then I can tell who you really are. This is where we're gonna go today. So they sit in prison, right? For, let me look here. Grab me a thing for my nose, will you? Or somebody. Thank you. Sorry. Beside the point. So anyway, so he puts them in prison for 3 days. Okay. Thank you very much. At the end of 3 days, he comes back to him. And this is where I want to go today. And this is what I want to talk about today. We'll move a little bit forward from this, but this is where we're going to talk about. So it says in verse 18 right here, Joseph said to them on the 3rd day, do this and live, for I fear God. Okay. So they've been in prison for 3 days. Okay. This is his goal. What does he want to do to them? He wants them all to stay in prison. He's going to send one back to go get his brother. He's going to bring him back. And then when that one comes back, then he's going to let him go, or whatever he's going to do with him. Sets him in prison for 3 days. What happens in that 3 days? The brothers that are in prison are discussing amongst themselves what they've done. We're going to see that in a minute, what they've done, how they failed, how whatever. But what else is going on right here when it says that he, in verse 18, Joseph said to them on the 3rd day, do this and live, for I fear God. During that 3 days, what was going on in Joseph's life? What was going on in his life? The Lord was speaking to him also, right? Which is pretty neat that he puts them in prison for 3 days. He's thinking he's teaching them a lesson, right? You're going to sit in there and you're going to think about what you've done. And then you're going to go back. But that whole time that they're in there, the Lord's speaking to Joseph, and he's saying, look, Joseph, you've got to kind of back up and think about, where you're at in life, and think about what's going on in your life. And, the best plan may not be for you to put all of them in prison and send one back. You may need to change what you're doing, right? And he's saying, I fear God, so I'm going to make a new plan. And we're going to read right here. It says, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers be confined to your prison house, but you go and carry grain for your family and your houses, and you bring the youngest brother back to me, so your words may be tested and verified. Do this and you shall not die. So the Lord says to him while they're in prison, he says, look, Joseph, that's not the right plan. You don't need to keep all of them in prison. You need to just keep one of them in prison. You need to send the rest back. Because Joseph fears God, he changes what he's going to do. Okay. So what I want to talk about today, what does it mean in our life to fear God? Do we, and I'm going to ask you this as we look forward to the upcoming year, as we look forward to what we're doing, do we fear God? And what does that look like in our lives? Because I can say that I'm a Christian. I can say that I fear God. I can say that I'm following Christ. I can say that I'm doing whatever in my life. Is your life verifying and proving that you really are who you say you are? So I want to just talk about a little bit. What does it mean to fear God? We have an idea that I fear God. And this is a lot of people that think that, well, God's sitting up in heaven. He's got lightning bolts in his hands. I do something wrong, he's going to throw a lightning bolt down at me. He's going to judge me. He's going to kill me. He's going to do whatever. And I'm going to fear God because of what he can do to me. Right. Is that what Joseph's talking about right here when he says that he fears God? Is that how we should view God in our lives, that we fear God, that he's going to, if we don't do right, that he's going to cut us down. He's going to kill us. He's going to penalize us. He's going to destroy us. Or what does it mean to fear God in our lives? And what I wrote down is a reverence and an awe. Do we know what that means? What is a reverence? That means a respect. What is an awe? That means I love God because of who he is. because of what he is. I am in awe of God because of what he's done in my life. I fear God because I want to serve him because of who he is, not because of what he can do to me. You understand? And that's, so let's turn over there and we're going to look at Hebrews. We're going to look at Hebrews 12. Hebrews 12. And we're going to go through a couple things on what it means to fear God. And I just want you to keep in your mind as we look forward to the new year and to the things that are going on. If I fear God, what does it look like in my life? What does it look like in my life? Hebrews 12. Let's go to verse 28. And it says in Hebrews 12, let people get around there to it. Hebrews 12, verse 28. I should have given Sharon the scriptures that we were going out of today, but we did not. Hebrews 12:28 says, therefore, since we are receiving a kingdom which cannot be shaken. Do we understand that God is over everything? I mean, that's an awesome thing, man. That if you think about that, since we are receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken, can the kingdom of heaven, who we serve, the God who is ruler over, can that be shaken by the coronavirus? Or can that be shaken by our finances? Or can that be shaken by the health that we have? Can that stuff be shaken? I'm telling you, the Lord cannot be shaken. And it says that since we are receiving a kingdom that which cannot be shaken, let us have grace by which we may serve God acceptably. To fear God means we serve God, right? And what does it mean to serve God acceptably? How does that look in our lives? That we serve God acceptably. We do what he wants us to do. We do what, Joseph wanted to do something different. He wanted to keep all the brothers in prison. He wanted to penalize them and send one back. The Lord said, no, I don't want you to do that. So how did he serve God? He said, okay, God, Lord, I'm going to change my plans. I'm going to change the way that I'm doing things, and I'm going to do what you would have me to do. And that is serving God acceptably. It says, with reverence and godly fear, with reverence and respect, with reverence and awe, with reverence and love. Lord, I'm going to serve you, and I'm going to do the things that I'm going to do in my life because of who you are, not because of necessarily what you can do to me, right? There's a difference. Do you want your kids? I want my kids to serve me, whether they serve me out of fear of that I'm going to bust their tail, or whether they serve me out of fear because they respect me. But why do I want my kids to serve me and to fear me? Because they love me, right? Because they see the love that I have for them, and they see the things that we've done, and that everything we've done is because of our love for them. And I want them to serve acceptably because of that, not because they're scared to death of me, right? God doesn't want us to serve him just because we're scared of him, right? He doesn't, that's not his plan. And it says, let us have grace by which we may serve God acceptably with reverence and godly fear. For our God is a consuming fire. Now, I want you to understand, although we serve God because we love him, right? Because of what he's done in our life, because of who he is in our life, because of the awesome things that he's provided for us, given us salvation, given us everything that we have. Do we understand that God is a consuming fire? What does that mean? Because I think we also get into the thought that, look, what does it matter if I fear God or not? I'm doing my thing, and I'm gonna walk the way that I want to walk and do whatever I want to do, and it doesn't really matter what God wants, right? Are we in that phase of our life that we don't really care what God wants, and we just kind of do our own thing? And so I'm not going to serve him anyway. I'm not going to do anything anyway because I'm not worried about it. Understand that God is a consuming fire. You can look at that two ways, right? The consuming fire can consume what? What happens when you take a piece of gold or silver and you stick it in a fire that is so hot that it can burn that up? It doesn't burn it up. What does it do? It refines it, right? It takes out the impurities of it. It takes out the things that are in it. God is a consuming fire that can take our sin and consume it up in our lives and purify us to serve him better. That's one way that he can be that consuming fire, right? But what's the other way that he can be a consuming fire? That if I choose I'm not going to serve him, I'm not going to love him, I'm not going to fear him, I'm going to walk in my own direction and do my own thing, that same consuming fire that can refine me and change me and grow me can absolutely destroy me. Do we understand? God has the power to take us out. I think we forget about that. We don't really realize that the Lord has, I'm doing my life. I'm working my thing. I'm doing, I'm okay. I've got to answer to myself. No, that's not true. We all have a judgment day, right? We all have a period where we're going to have to answer for the things that we've done. So serving God is in reverence and in awe, but we have to do that because there is a penalty if we don't serve God, right? Let's move down here, and it says sometimes we don't understand that we have to give an account for our actions, right? Is that what does the world tell us? What do the people of the world tell us? What do they say? That, look, man, you can live any way you want to live. You can do anything you want to do. You can act any way you want to act, and it doesn't matter what anybody thinks, because you're your own ruler. You're your own leader. You're in control of your own life, right? Is that true? I mean, yeah, for right now it is, but that's not the way that rolls, man. Because there is a time I can act however I want to act right now, but I'm telling you what, that it's all coming back around. And the more I look at it, the more that I see with all the stuff going on, the closer the Lord is to returning, and for us giving up and answering for what we've done, right? We got to understand, and this is such an encouragement, that the Lord has given me the way. That, what an encouragement. The Lord has given me his sacrifice, his blood, his forgiveness, his love. I don't have to do any work. I don't have to do anything for it. All I have to do is reach out and take it and say, Lord, thank you for giving that for me. And I'm going to serve you. I'm going to fear you. I'm going to love you because of what you've done for me. Right. Now let's look over here at Deuteronomy 10. We're going to just go through a couple different things here. Deuteronomy 10. If I can find it. No. Deuteronomy 10, verse 12. And I want to ask you, what does it look like to serve God? Deuteronomy 10, verse 12. It says, Deuteronomy 10, verse 12, and now, Israel, what does the Lord your God require of you but to fear the Lord your God and to walk in his ways? So what does it look like when we talk about fearing God? How do I actually apply that to my life? And to walk in his ways, to love him, and to serve the Lord with all your heart. Right? When Joseph was putting his brothers in prison, and the Lord came to him and said, you need to change the way you're doing this thing. You need to change your actions. And did Joseph say, look, Lord, I'm going to do it my way, and I'm not worrying about what you tell me to do. I'm just going to do it my way. How do we, when the Lord tells us something in our life, how do we do things? Do we do it our way? Do we serve him with all our heart and love him and do what he would have us to do? When I serve my wife with all my heart, right? I do what needs to be done. I don't do things to please myself, right? I do things to help her, to please her. When I serve the Lord with all my heart, I don't do things that are based on my flesh and what I feel like I want to do and what I think I deserve and whatever. That's a hard thing to do, right? I mean, we want to do what makes us feel good. But if I'm going to serve God and I'm going to fear God and I'm going to love him with all my heart, that means I'm going to do things that are pleasing to him, which it's not easy all the time, right? That's not easy in our life. It says, serve the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul. And look here, to keep the commandments of the Lord and his statutes, which I command you today for your good. This is what I want you to understand this, because this is something that is very important. We think that the Lord's up in heaven throwing lightning bolts at us. He wants to ruin my time. He wants to make me have a miserable existence. He wants me to just suffer all the time and not have any fun, right? Why do I tell my kids that you need to do this way? Why does your boss tell you you need to do the work this way? It's for our own good, right? It's because the Lord loves us, and the Lord's telling us, look, I need you to serve me. I need you to love me. I need you to follow in the ways that I tell you for your own good. Because if you don't do it, if you think back on this last year, and how many things did I jump out in and do for my reasons, and do because it made me feel good, and do for my good. And let me ask you, how did that do in your life? Did you get any place by serving yourself? Did that do you any good? When I look back on my life, the things that I did to serve me and to propel me, and I mean, they didn't do me any good. But the things that I did for God, and the things that I did because I wanted to propel him and lift him up in my life. Those are the things that lasted over the last year. I'm telling you, you look at your life and you see the things that lasted, the things that I did for other people, the way that I helped other people, the way that I loved other people, the way that I gave to other people, not about what I did for myself, right? God wants us to do that for our own good. And then also over there in Psalms 51, let's look at that. And we're moving forward. Psalms 51. What does that say? Why, who do we have to answer to? Who do we answer to? Because of what the world will tell us that you just have to answer to me, that you have to give account to yourself. You're the one that you have to answer to, right? But do we realize that we, everything that we do in our life, if we serve ourselves, do for ourselves, whatever, who are we giving account to? And it says over here, Psalm 51, this is David. And what happened with David and Bathsheba, right? He went out and he did his thing with Bathsheba. He had an adulterous affair with her. Then he took Uriah, her husband, put him on the front line, killed him, had him killed because he wanted to be with Bathsheba. This is Psalm 51 and just verse 1, and we're just going to look at that. But he wanted to be with Bathsheba, so he said, look, the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to kill your husband because I'm having a baby with you, and he wasn't there. And so sin after sin after sin David did, right? And then look what it says down here in verse 1. It says, have mercy upon me, O God. This is Psalm 51:1. Have mercy upon me, O God, according to your own loving kindness, according to the multitude of your tender mercies. Blot out my transgressions, wash me thoroughly from my iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin. Right? He's saying, God, I need your help to cleanse me from what I've done. It says, for I lack knowledge, I lack knowledge, my transgressions and my sin is always before me. And it says right here in verse 4, against you and you only have I sinned. Now, who is he talking about? This is David saying, look, the sin that I've done in my life, the things that I've done in my life, I've only done them against you. And the only one, yes, I've done bad to people and I've done this, but who is the one ultimately that I'm sinning against as a Christian? Who is it that's given me the way and the direction? And it's the Lord that I'm sinning against. And I can apologize to you guys, but it's God that gave me the way, right? And that's what we need to understand. Here, put that, say it online here.
You might think what you're doing doesn't affect other people, but it always affects other people. Always.
Yep.
Someone's always watching you to see how you're going to react.
Yeah. And how many times do we fail on how people watch me and see how I'm going to react? We saw that last week when I beeped at the person in the church parking lot and yelled out the window at them, right? That's our life, right? And yeah, that's the sin that we have in our life, man. Now I want you to read, if we do not fear God, then I will not take my actions seriously, right? I will not take my sin seriously. And I'm telling you that I can go out and I can feel like I can do anything and I'm not going to answer to anybody and I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And I'm not going to take that seriously because I don't have to, man, because I don't fear anybody, because I am my own God, right? The world tells you, you are your own God. You take action, you do your thing. Now I want to read over here Galatians, and this is Galatians 6. And let's read right here in verse 7. And this is my question. There are still consequences to the sins that we do, right? There are consequences to that, whether I feel like I fear God or want to serve God or do whatever. There are consequences to actions that we have. And it says in verse 7, Galatians 6:7, do not be deceived. God is not mocked, right? That don't try to mock God. Say I'm a Christian, say I'm doing my thing and I'm out here living and doing whatever it is that I feel like I'm doing. And it says, do not be deceived. God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man sows, that he will also reap, right? For he who sows to his flesh will of the flesh reap corruption. We get that we can do everything that we want to do to serve ourselves and to get ahead ourselves and to make myself feel better. And that's doing you no good at all. I'm telling you, that is not lasting. That is not good. That it doesn't do anything for you. It says, but he who sows to the Spirit will of the Spirit reap everlasting life. Now, and this is where we can about end here, but what it says here is that and let us not grow weary. I want you to get this part. This is saying if you sow to your flesh, you're gonna reap corruption. If you sow to the spirit and sow to what God would have you to do, then you're going to reap everlasting life. And it says right here, do not grow weary. This is Galatians 6:9. Let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season, well, we shall reap if we do not lose heart. I want you to get, is it fearing and loving God and serving God? Is it always easy? I'll tell you what, it's the hardest thing that we can do, to put my flesh aside and serve the Lord and do what he would have me to do, and do good and speak good and encourage and love, and I lose heart, right? When I do good and I try to serve and I try to do what I'm supposed to do, and all I ever get are people stabbing me in the back, and people cussing me out on Facebook, and people doing whatever you're doing, and I'm trying to serve, and I'm trying to do good for God, and I'm trying to do what's right, and all I'm getting is all this kickback and blowback, and people, making me, feel bad or whatever. Do I want to keep on doing that? Do we want to keep on serving and saying, Lord, yeah, I just keep getting kicked in the teeth, and come on, just keep on kicking me, and I'm loving that? No, that's terrible, man. That's no good, right? But it says, do that, and let us not grow weary, right? We don't know God's time frame, right? We don't. Do you think Joseph, as he had his brothers in the prison cell, and you think that he wanted to kick them in the teeth and say, you know what, you threw me in the pit, you sold me into slavery, I've had to deal with this thing over here for like 17 years, dealing with this. It's time for some revenge, right? I'm sick of doing good. I want to kick you in the teeth, right? That's how I feel about people a lot of times. Just being honest, man. I'm just telling you, when somebody keeps stabbing me in the back and doing whatever, man, I like to wring your neck, right? And the Lord says, don't grow weary doing good. He said, don't grow weary doing good. It says, for I mean, it's the truth. I mean, that's I'm honest. That's real, man. I'm telling you. I mean, I'm not going to tell you that I all the time want to do good and love doing good, and like getting kicked in the teeth and people deceiving me and doing whatever. No, I don't, man. But the Lord tells me what he says in his word right here, and this is for all of us to look at as we go into this new year. I'm telling you, as we go, this is a new year, a new start. This is a new time that we can really get on board with serving the Lord, not for my good, not because of what it's doing for me, but because I'm serving God, right? And it says, and I'm telling you, let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart. It says, therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all, especially to those who are of the household of faith. Look, don't grow weary in doing good. Don't grow weary in doing what God would have you to do. Don't grow weary in listening to what the Lord tells you to do in your life. I know you look at yourself and you say, oh, man, my life is terrible, and these people are doing this, and I just want to jump out and do my thing, and I want to have fun. And listen, God is going to give you, you're going to reap what you sow. The more I do good, the more I love, the more my heart's going to change. The more I'm going to want to do good and the more I do for myself and for my flesh, the more I want to do for myself and my flesh, the more I want to go down that line, and the more I want to get away from God, and I don't want to hear it, God, and I don't want to serve you, and I don't want to do right. There are consequences now, and this right here, and then we're going to move on. I promise. Look over here in Revelation 20, and this is if we choose, okay, if we choose not to serve God, not to fear God, not to accept his forgiveness and his love and his salvation, if we choose not to do that, are there consequences that are going to be paid for that? Are there consequences that we're going to have to pay for that? People don't believe that. People don't believe that there is a consequence to be paid at the end of the line. You have two thrones, right? You have two judgments, right? And we can't get into all this right now, but you have the judgment seat of Christ, right? Which is what? That is for the people that have accepted Christ, that love Christ, and that have gone his way. You're going to stand before him, and the things that you've done for his good, and he's going to give you rewards for those things, right? He's going to accept you into his kingdom. What about the people that never have done that? Revelations 20, verse 11. What about the people that that just say, I'm not going to do it, man. I'm not going to do it. I'm just putting this out here so that you could think about this. This is the great white throne judgment. Okay. And then we'll move forward. Great white throne judgment. This is the judgment of the lost. Okay. This is the judgment seat of the people that do not believe. This is the judgment seat of those that say, you know what, Lord, I see the way you've given me. I see what you've done in my life. I choose not to fear you, to serve you, to love you, to accept your forgiveness. I'm just going to do my thing, man. There's a lot of us out there, right? I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are doing that. And they just say, I'm just going to take my chances when I get there. I'm telling you, that's not the best way to do it. Revelation 20, verse 11. Then I saw a great white throne judgment, and who sat on it, whose face the earth and the heavens fled away. There was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, standing before God. The books were open, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. The dead were judged according to their works by the things which were written in the books. It says the sea gave up the dead who were in it, and death and Hades delivered up the dead who were in them, and they were judged, each one according to his works. It says, then death and Hades were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. Anyone not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. It can't be any more plain than that. I mean, it can't be any more plain than that the book of life is the acceptance that I love the Lord, man, that I'm going to serve the Lord. Everybody, that's right. And we could do another study. And what Sharon said, that book of life, right? When the book of life, which the Lord is going to open up, and if your name is written in that book of life, then you have received salvation and you are entered into the kingdom of heaven, and that everybody is in that book of life. When are we not, when you talk about the great white throne of judgment right there, when are you blotted out of the book of life? What does it mean to blot out? And I can get that scripture for you, but blotting out is what? Like I'm writing my stuff, my notes and my whatever, and I write a mistake in there. I take my correction tape and I run it over that line and I blot that out. I take it out, right? When we make a choice, and I want you to understand, when we make a choice, an active choice to say, Lord, I know you've come to me. I know you're giving me a chance. I know you're speaking to me about doing and serving you. I am choosing at this time to deny you, to not serve you. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to just serve my flesh. I'm going to do what I want to do. That's when you are blotted out of the book of life. That is, yes, John.
With that is the unsaved that didn't accept Jesus.
That is yes. When you decide you do not want to accept Jesus and his sacrifice for you, yes, that's where you're at. So anyway, so fearing God. As we go toward this new year, I just want you to really think, and I'm going to think in my life, do I say that I love the Lord? First off, do I fear God, which is a reverence, awe, and a respect for him, which is a love for him. I'm doing that because I love him, right? So let's move forward right here. That was my thing on fearing God, man. I couldn't get away from that. We say we fear him, and then we live our own way, and we just don't do it, man. And that's just where that is. So let's go right here back over in Genesis 42. Okay. So he's saying that because of Joseph's fear for God, gotta check the time, 10:09. Because of Joseph's fear for God, he has changed the direction that he is going. He had them all in the prison cell. He said, you're all going to stay here. And I'm telling you what, I'm only going to send one of you back. God said, no, Joseph, you need to change the way you're thinking about that thing. That's not the way it's going to go. And he said, you know what, Lord, because I fear you, I'm going to change my direction. I'm going to change the things that I'm doing. When the Lord comes to us and says, Chad, I need you to change your attitude. I need you to change the things that you're doing. I need you to change the way that you're giving. I need you to, Lord, I fear you. I love you. I'm going to change what I'm doing. I'm going to be devoted to doing what you want me to do. I'm telling you, as we come into this new year, that is what I want to do. I want to, when the Lord comes to me and says, Chad, I need you to do this. I need you to change this, to act this way. Does that mean I'm going to do it every time? No, but that means that I can go back to it and say, Lord, I screwed that one up, man. I want to do better this year. I'm telling you, I want to do better this year. But because of his fear for God, he changed what he was going to do. And it says, okay, if you are honest men, and we're back down in verse 18, if you're honest men, let one of your brothers be committed to your prison house, but you go and carry grain for your family and your house. And right here in verse 20, it says, and bring your youngest brother back to me. It says, so your works will be verified and you shall not die. Let me ask the question right here. Why is Joseph so worried about what is Joseph's whole thing that he's wanting to be done? He's wanting his brothers to be honest men, to show that they are honest men, to show that they're changed men, to show that they've made a difference, right? That's his whole goal and all this stuff that he's doing. Why is he so concerned about Benjamin, his younger brother? Why is he so concerned about that? Because I'm telling you, his whole thing is, you go back to Canaan, you bring your younger brother back to me. You go back to Canaan, bring your younger brother back to me. Why does he care so much about Benjamin? Well, let me tell you why he cares so much about him. Who was Joseph when this whole thing started? He is the son of Rachel, right? He is the only son of Rachel at that time. Okay. He got sold into slavery. He got thrown in the pit. He got forgotten about by his brothers, right? That's what he did. Now, who is Benjamin? Benjamin is his real brother. Benjamin is the one, a son of Rachel, right? The youngest son. He's a son of Rachel. Why would he be so concerned about him? Because if the brothers, they say they're changed people, they say they're honest people, they say they've changed, right? Does he know they're telling the truth about Benjamin? Does he know does he know that Benjamin's actually alive? Or is he thinking, you know what, man, I was Benjamin, right? Because I'm telling you, Benjamin's not there with him now, because who knows? Because Jacob is keeping him there because he favors him, because he's the son of his true love. He's keeping him there. They don't know whether, I mean, do they know that he didn't kill Benjamin? I mean, do they know that they didn't say, you know what, man, here's another one that the Father loves more than us. We're going to throw him in the pit and we're going to really kill him this time. And he's saying, look, if you truly are changed men, then I want to see Benjamin to know that you didn't do to him what you did to me. Right. And that's why he wants to see Benjamin so much. He wants to give Benjamin a passage to get over there into Egypt so that he can take care of him. Right. He has a heart for Benjamin. Right. He really, I mean, he just loves him, man. He wants him to prove that that's who he is. They are, when you think about it, if they kept all the brothers, and I want you to think about this is a neat point. If all the brothers were kept in prison and one brother was sent back to get Benjamin, like he initially wanted to do in himself, right? And the Lord said, no, we're not going to do that. What would be the motivation for the one brother that was sent back to come back to Egypt with Benjamin? Because you've still got 9 brothers that are sitting in this prison cell. You know that the Father's going to make you come back to get those 9 brothers, right? You know that's going to happen, right? So the motivation will be, well, I'm going to go back to get these 9 brothers because that's our whole family lineage, right? But what about if he keeps one and he sends them all back and he says, is one worth it, right? That's the question you got to ask. He was the one, right? He wasn't worth it. They stuck him out there and sold him and got rid of him and said, we're not going, that one is not worth it. So now that he's keeping one person in prison, one of the brothers, he's sending all the other ones back and he's saying, are you guys really changed? Is one brother worth you coming back over here to get? Or are you the same as you were and you're going to forget about that one and leave him in prison and say, you know what, we're not going back over there, man, to deal with that guy. We're not going to do that. That's the question. So that's how he's going to know if they have a heart change, right? That's how he's going to know if they have a heart change. Is the one worth it, man? Now, what about, you think about your life, right? What does the Lord tell us about that one? And I that's an awesome thing. Huh? He said, look, it doesn't matter if I got 99 sheep sitting here in the pen right here, and I got one that's out and lost and gone and not coming home. It's worth it for me to leave all these other ones and go get that one that's out there, right? Pursue that one that's out there, because I love all of y'all. I want all of y'all to come into heaven. I want all of you guys to come in here and be a part of this thing, right? How do I view that in my life? Is, have I given up on that one, right? There's got to be somebody in your life that you're thinking about that is just on your heart right now that you're saying, you know, I've given up on this one that's out here, man. They're never going to change. They're never going to do better. They're never going to. And the Lord's telling me, look, man, the one is worth it, right? Pursue that one. Don't worry about all these ones you have over here that are doing well and everybody's doing good over here. You pursue that one that's out there running around that you never think can come, because that one is the one that I came and I died for. That's what the Lord's saying right there, right? He's saying that one is worth it. And the other question that I have is, does our life and our actions show our honesty and our Christian character, right? By the things that we're doing, the way that we're living, the way that we're loving, the way that we're serving, is that showing my Christian character? Is that showing my honesty in my life, right? That's the question that Joseph's asking him. He's saying, are you guys real? Are you doing what's real? So let's move down right here. He says, I'm going to send one of y'all back. And it says they did so. And then they said one to another. Okay, we're down here in Genesis 42, verse 21. Okay. Then they said one to another. This is when they were in the prison cell. This is when they were in there confined, talking to each other and looking at their life and looking at what had done. You know, Joseph he'd still never said anything about, you know, what they did to him. He's not the one throwing that guilt on him, saying, well, what about that brother that's not here anymore? He's not doing that. But as they get around and they're starting to mull over that, and the Lord's starting to speak to them and starting to change their heart and starting to realize who they are, what he's saying to them, he's saying, they said one to another, we are truly guilty concerning our brother, right? As you sit there and the Lord was speaking to Joseph, saying, you need to change your plans, but he's also speaking to the brothers. And he's saying, look, you guys need to change your life. You guys need to change what you've done in your past, and you know, stop going off on everybody else. And you take a look at yourself. You know, we talked about it before, you know, take the plank out of your own eye before you can see the problem in your brother's eye, right? And that's what these guys are looking at themselves, and the Lord saying, look, take a look at yourself and see where you're at in this whole thing. He says that we said one to another, we are truly guilty concerning our brother, for we saw the anguish of his soul when he pleaded with us, and we would not hear. Therefore, this distress has come upon us. They're saying, Lord, you know, we screwed up, man, and we need to change what we're doing. And I'm guilty about that. And I'm starting to, and they're starting to realize the effects of their sin, right? And do we realize what the sin that we've done in our life, or the things that we're doing, or whatever, the effect of that thing? It doesn't just affect me, like Sharon said. The things that I do not just affect me, right? The things that I do affect everybody. They affect my group. There's always, and I've said it before, that when you sin, there's something that dies, right? Whether it's a relationship, whether it's a physical death, whether it's an emotion, whether it's there's always something that dies when we sin. And this is finally, when you talk about with them, this is finally where they're starting to realize, hey man, I'm guilty. You know, can we ever, as we go forward into this new year, can we ever realize that I need to change what I'm doing until I realize that I'm the one that's guilty? Right? You got to realize that you're guilty. What do you do when you realize that you're guilty? What do you do? You start to confess that, right? You start to say, you know what, Lord, I'm the one that has a problem, right? And then you start to repent of that, which is, I'm going to start to change the way that I'm living and doing things, right? And then you come to where you accept the Lord, and that's all the process, and that's what he's trying to get them to do. So they're realizing finally the effects of their sin. And then it says down here in verse 22, and it says, and Reuben answered them, saying, now let me ask you a question. Who is Reuben? He's the brother. He's the oldest brother. So this is interesting right here. Okay. Reuben is the oldest brother out of all these guys. And it says to him in verse 22, Reuben answered them, saying, did I not speak to you, saying, do not sin against the boy? And you would not listen. Therefore, behold, his blood is now required of us. It says, yes. So let's just back up just for a second. So Reuben is the oldest brother, right? They throw Joseph in the pit. He's back in the pit, man. We've been 5 months. He's back in the pit. They throw that mug back in the pit, right? And they're going to kill him, right? And they're going to kill him. And it's Reuben, the oldest brother, that says, hey guys, there's no benefit to killing him. We're not going to get anything out of that. Let's sell him into. Why did he say that? Because he wanted to sell him into slavery? No, because he wanted to give time to figure out a plan to get Joseph out of the pit. Right? That's what he wanted to do. So he went and did his thing. He came back and Joseph was gone. They had sold him. He said, where's Joseph, man? He said, oh, we sold him off into slavery, man. He's like, oh my goodness, man. And he couldn't do anything, but he tried to save him. But what's interesting about that is what? Reuben is the oldest son, right? What benefits do you get from being the oldest son? What benefits do you get from it? Back in this time, you get a double portion, right? You are the heir. You are the one that gets more. You're the one that is respected. Was Reuben respected? Was he going to get a double portion? Was he going to get all this stuff? No, Joseph was. So who had the most to gain by actually Joseph getting sold into slavery and killed or whatever? Who was the one who had the most to gain? Reuben would have been the most, because he would have put him, hey man, now Joseph's gone. I'm going to get a double portion. I'm going to get my inheritance. I'm going to get all my respect that I need. But he's the one that has the integrity and says, I'm not worried about what the world's going to give me and what benefit I can get by screwing the world and screwing people and doing, excuse my language, but by doing things that I shouldn't do. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to do what is right. And I'm going to figure out a way to do what is right. And he would be the most unlikely one to actually want to pull Joseph out of that pit, but he did it. And Joseph, you got to think about Joseph. Does he know any of this stuff? Does he know any of this stuff that's going on? All he knows is that he was pulled out of that pit. He was sold into slavery. He had to spend 17 years over here in Egypt, dealing with all the stuff he's had to deal with. And he doesn't know anything. Here these guys come. So look what happens here. Reuben says to him, Reuben is calling him out. He's like, look, man, I told you guys not to do this. But does it matter? Just because he told them not to do it, is he not part of it? He's still part of it, right? He could have gone and he could have said, look, I'm going to fight you guys and I'm going to pull them out of the pit. But he kind of just did a little bit, just enough to buy some time. But he didn't do enough, man. And you look at your life and are we doing enough? Because we're still guilty, right? If I do just enough to help somebody out a little bit, and then I say, yeah, you know what, man, I'm just going to let them go. And that's still on you, right? And Reuben right here is saying, now we all have to pay. He's saying his blood is now required of us, right? I'm going to have to pay because that's just telling you we need to take a stand in our life, right? And do the right thing. How hard is that to do? Tell me, when you got these girls that are younger and they're trying to deal with Hannah doing work, how hard is it to take a stand and say, you know what? I don't care how you look at me. I don't care what you think about me. I don't care how you talk about me. I'm going to take a stand and I'm going to serve the Lord. Right? That's Joshua 24 talks about, man, as far as me and my house, I'm going to serve the Lord. As far as me and my house, what I can do, I'm going to serve God. Right? Reuben didn't do enough, so it's still required of him. But the interesting thing, you got Joseph here, okay, and we're moving down right here, and it says Reuben made this confession that, hey man, I tried to pull him out of the pit, you wouldn't listen. We're all in this together now. We're all getting judged because of this. We're all doing whatever. And it says down here as we get into verse 24. Let's look here, 23. It said in verse 23, Genesis 42:23, but they did not know that Joseph understood them. Okay. It says, for he spoke to them through an interpreter. So they're sitting there talking about this stuff. They think that they don't know that he can speak Hebrew. They don't know they think he speaks Egyptian. So they're just kind of talking this stuff. And he's listening to them. And it says, and he spoke to them through an interpreter. He turned himself away from them and wept. Now, why did Joseph weep right there? Why did he weep? Because he heard what they said to him. They said, you know what, man, I'm telling you, it's just awesome, man. We don't know when we say the things that we say. Hannah and I got in an argument the other night, man, continually getting an argument, but that's just the way that goes. She said, I heard you said this, and I'm going to confront you on that thing that you said this. And what do you mean by that? What is that? We don't know who hears what we say. right? Whether you're at work, whether you're talking about your kids, whether your kids are talking about your parents, right? You don't know who hears. Joseph right here is sitting there. He hears them. They don't think he knows what they're talking about, but he knows exactly what they're talking about, right? And why does he turn away to weep? Because this is the first time that Joseph realizes, you know what, man, there's actually somebody out of my family that loved me, right? That's an awesome thing. Reuben doesn't know what he's saying, but he's like, somebody actually cared about me. He's been living for 17 years thinking my whole family just blew me off and didn't care about me and left me and did whatever. But man, there's actually one that loved me, and he turned away and he wept, right? Now, what do we think about weeping? And I guess it's about time to go, man. I'll leave you on this point. Weeping, right? Joseph turned around and he wept because he realized what his family had done, what Reuben had done. He realized that somebody actually loved him. He realized that there was somebody that cared about him, right? He turned around and wept. Is it bad that men cry? That's the question, man. You got this now. You don't need to be a weepy, whiny crier all the time, right? There's a difference there. But listen, right? You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, you don't want to be a wuss, right? That came from the class, not from me. You don't want to be a wuss, but it's okay to weep, right? Now I will sit there and a commercial will come on TV and I'll get teared up, and Sharon will look over at me.
He cries over swamp loggers. I'm just saying. Swamp loggers.
I cry over anything, man, right? I cry over all this stuff. But then the real serious stuff, I don't really cry about, man. But I'll cry about a kitten out here that's getting a bath and I don't know, whatever, man. I'm just telling you. And what I wrote here, and I want you to think about this, and I'm gonna see where I wrote it here. And I didn't get where I wanted to get, but what makes a person weep is a good test of their character. Okay? What we weep about is a good test of our character. You had Jesus that wept, right? Because of his love, right? It is okay for men to weep. Do we need to teach our kids as men and leaders and that it is okay to be compassionate? It is okay to love. It is okay to show your emotions, right? As a leader, we need to do that. We cannot be, and I'm hard. I mean, ask my kids, I'm hard. I'm just, you've got to show your emotions. You've got to show your love. Joseph right here is like, I can't hold it in anymore, man. I'm compassionate about my family. I'm compassionate about things that are going on in my life. And he wept for him, right? He loved him. So that's where, and we're out of time for this week. I want to get to, what time? Yep. Okay. So Joseph's actions, and we got 2 minutes, man. I'm going to kind of feed into where we're going next week and where it's time to go. I know it's time to go, but look, Joseph's actions were kind and stern, right? And severe in speech, but done for good. Okay. What was Joseph's motivation? Why was Joseph doing the things? Why did Joseph not just say, you know what, man, I've got you 10 brothers right here. You threw me in the pit. You left me for dead. You didn't care about me. I'm telling you what, I'm going to put you in this prison cell. I'm going to lock you up. And this is where I have the power to do it. I'm going to lock you up and I'm going to keep you there. I'm going to go get Dad and I'm going to go get Benjamin. I'm going to bring them over and I'm going to bless them. And I'm going to, and I'm going to leave you mugs stuck up in this prison cell because of what you did to me, right? That's not Joseph. Joseph's motivation, love for the purpose of repentance and reconciliation. He loved them because he wanted them to repent. He wanted them to turn so that he could be reconciled to them. What does the Lord put us through in our life? Why does he test us? Why does he make it hard on us sometimes? Because he wants us to repent, which is to what? Turn away from what we're doing that we shouldn't be doing. He wants us to repent because of what? He wants to have reconciliation with us. He wants to have a relationship with us. Do we understand that? I'm telling you, there is nothing that will fill that void in your life. There is nothing, we could have had a perfect life. The Lord could have said, look, you're going to serve, you're going to do this, he wants us to turn from what we're doing. He wants us to be reconciled to him. He wants to fill that void that is in our life. And I'm telling you, he is the only one that can fill that void. And that is why he puts us through the things that he does, and doesn't just say, Chad, I'm going to let you roll on. And if everything was perfect in my life all the time, would I grow? Would you learn? Would you do anything? No, we've got to go through that. So what we'll start off next week. And we're going to, and then we're going to move forward. But it says, what I wanted to talk about, what is amazing to me is that regarding Joseph, his character and his heart. And I want to know, and I want you to think about this week, how is our heart? And what does that look like? How do we love people even when they don't love us? How do we love people that are mean to us? How did Joseph do that? Right? And even further than that, how does the Lord do that? What was the love that he gave to me? Romans 5:8 tells me that while I was yet a sinner, while I was out there not loving him, while this all happened before these guys made a confession to him, before these guys turned, he is still loving them because of that. That's his character, right? So be encouraged, man. This new year, this is a new year, a new start. We're going to go on and I'm telling you, this is a growing year. I know it's time to go. So I'm going to shut it down there. I want y'all come back next week. Any comments real quick before we shut it down? Bye, Hannah. I do love you. That's my daughter, man.